Hey everybody, welcome to the Westwood Living podcast. Tom Leyden with you, joined by Leah Kofos. How are you, Leah?
I'm doing well. Happy to be here.
I am excited to introduce you to our audience. Leah is one of the attorneys at the Samuel, Sayward, and Baler law firm here. And you're kind of right on the border of Westwood, Dedham, officially Dedham.
Yes.
But you're pretty close.
Yeah.
You're pretty close. You're right here on Route 1A, Washington Street, officially. So as we get to learn a little bit more about you, kind of how did you end up here? How did you choose estate planning and elder law as your expertise? Give people a little overview. You're one of our new expert contributors, so people will get to know you over the course of time in Westwood Living.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been working as an estate planning attorney for about 7 years now. I started at a firm, a larger firm in Worcester. Quite a few more attorneys. It was big. I got a lot of experience there, but the lifestyle wasn't quite what I was looking for. So through, a series of events, I came to this firm. I started at Samuel, Sayward, and Baler last year and just fell in love with it. I actually reached out to them to see if they had an opening and to move on down. Yeah. So I've been here about a year and, no plans to go anywhere else. I love it here.
Well, that's great. What I really like about it is that you're fully engaged as a contributor, right? So what does that mean for you, the listener, and also for you, the contributor? It's really just an opportunity over the course of time for you to share your expertise and lessons you've learned in this world, which is complicated to most of us, the layman. What do? How do you handle situations that you probably didn't put much thought into? So you'll have the opportunity to share, listen, this is some insight of things I've learned. And for instance, one of the reasons we're talking today is because you've got a special event coming up on the 13th, which is a Thursday night. You're doing that at 6 o'clock at Dedham Public Library, and it's specifically focused on young families and things that they should be thinking about. So I have some questions, but I just want to have you talk a little bit about what your goals are for that night.
Yeah, absolutely. So our firm, just to kind of give you a little background, our firm, we focus in estate planning, elder law, estate and trust administration, which a lot of people know as probate. That's pretty much the gambit, the estate planning gambit, right? Within that, there are, of course, different, smaller pieces of this. So one of the things that I like to focus on is guardianship for young families, because a lot of people, when they have kids, right, if they're either expecting children or they have young children, we get people who have 18-year-olds that haven't done any estate planning, which, you've missed guardianship, but there's still so much to be done. So I like to focus my seminars specifically on things like that, on little pieces. This particular seminar, it's at the Dedham Library, the main library center in Dedham. So that's the estate planning for young families, which really the people that I'm looking to sign up and really educate that night, people with young kids, people who are interested in hearing about guardianship. When we think about guardianship, we want to think about it short-term and long-term guardianship, which is something that not a lot of people, it's not commonly known. Most people just think of guardianship as long-term, the person raising your kids until they're 18. A lot of people don't want to talk about this or don't want to think about this because they think that it invites, that scenario into their lives. But it's always better to be prepared versus unprepared. So really this night coming up in future seminars will just be about educating them about their options and what documents they could have in place in order to be prepared for events that, hopefully we hope doesn't happen, but it always could.
Totally understand. It's some of the most important decisions any parent can make. Because when you're pregnant, expecting your child, you just want the child to be healthy. Mm-hmm. And when the child is born, there are so many things that are going on in your life. And I have learned over time that it is worth a couple hours of your life just to be educated about why this is important. So I know you just talked about, you said it a different way, but like not inviting the negative mojo to the party. But that's kind of one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is being smart and saying, God forbid anything happen to me or my wife. Our children are in a good space because we've worked hard to make the money that we've earned, and we've worked hard to try to create a life for our new child. But what are you doing to protect it?
Right.
So how do you educate these parents who are in their 30s and probably not thinking about that, about why it's so important?
Yeah, there are so many myths out there. There are myths that, a big one is what happens, you can name your child, your minor child, as a beneficiary of an asset. Well, that's all well and good, except a minor can't receive assets. So it still has to go through probate. That's not avoiding probate at all. So I'll kind of point out the pitfalls and the myths and debunk the myths during these types of seminars, but also kind of give them more information about how to avoid probate. Not just necessarily naming guardians, though that's a hugely important piece, but how to avoid probate, how to protect your family if you are incapacitated. So maybe you haven't died, maybe you're in a car accident and you're in the hospital and can't manage your own finances for a little while. What then, So there are a few documents, a few very key documents that we'll talk about during these seminars where it could protect your family in the long run from hardship, but also from spending a ton of money in the courts, which is huge to protect that.
You talked specifically about the probate process, and that's daunting because most people have no idea what that's about. And then at the end of the day, they're like, oh, that certainly was a pain in the butt. So what are the keys to avoiding the probate process without giving away the golden key to what you're going to tell people on the 13th, but generally speaking?
Yeah, so there are a couple different ways that you can avoid probate, one of which is naming beneficiaries on accounts. Now, there are correct ways to do that and incorrect ways to do that I'll get into during that seminar. But another way is to have a trust. There are different types of trusts. One of them is a revocable trust, which I'd probably say that most people certainly in this age range when you're younger, even empty nesters, with people who are really mainly focused on probate avoidance and maybe minimizing estate taxes, that's the type of thing. That's where you can do a revocable trust, different types of revocable trusts in order to avoid the probate process, but also, avoid or minimize any estate tax liability on your death, and also protect assets from your kids, for your kids' benefit from their creditors. So if they get divorced and they don't have a prenup, what happens to the inheritance that you've left them? There are certain types of trusts that can protect those assets for their benefit.
Wow. Complicated, but it seems like it's a wealth of knowledge that you're going to be able to provide to people. When you do, this isn't your first rodeo. So when you do these types of events, when it's done, what do you consider success?
When people walk out knowing more than they did when they walked in. I mean, at a baseline, right? It would be great to set up an appointment. It would be great to be able to do a trust for somebody. But at a baseline, I want people to know their options because that's the starting point, right? I mean, I've had a lot of clients who come in and say, we've been thinking about this for 20 years. We've been thinking about this for 10 years. And we just keep kicking the can down the road because we didn't know who to name. Well, that's my job, right? One of our jobs as the attorneys here is to walk you through the pros and cons of naming certain people in your life and really get to know you as a client. So I think that a successful seminar is people walking out and saying, wow, that was, really good information and I'm going to think about this.
So step back for me. Mm-hmm. You talked about being here for a year. What was it about SS&B that you liked? Because you sought them out and said that you wanted to work here. So what was it about this firm that you liked?
There's so much. I met, first of all, it's the reputation. This firm has been around, SSB has been around for 30 plus years. So there's a lot of clients who have used our firm and who have referred people over to our firm. And it's very much like a family environment, right? So the clients, they know you, they've referred their kids to you. It's very interesting seeing it all the intersections of that. But really, I mean, the first thing is the reputation of the firm. Even before I joined, you can look at the Google reviews. We love when people send Google reviews, but people will call in and send letters and everything saying that they really valued the work that we've done with them.
Fantastic. Well, folks, for you to find out more information, a couple ways. One, you can go to the website, which is ssbllc.com. The phone number here at this office is 781-461-1020. Now, for the event that's being hosted at Dedham Public Library on the 13th, you need to send an email to, I believe, the administrator at the library, who's Brittany, and that's btuttle, Tuttle, .ddm at MINLIB, which is short for Minuteman Library, minlib, MINLIB.net. So I'm going to read that whole thing again. btuttle.ddm at MINLIB.net. It's on the slate too. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, I'm going to have that email right there for you so you can copy and paste it. But anything else you'd like to share before we wrap it up?
You can also email me.
Well, there you go. Direct to the source.
Yeah, and I'll be able to sign you up for that event too. My email is Kofos, my last name Kofos, KOFOS, at ssbllc.com. It's a little bit easier than the library email, but you can either one is fine with us.
Well, I'm looking forward to reading what you have to contribute over the next many months with us in Westwood Living. Don't forget, March 17th is our big party. I hope you're all coming down. That's going to be at Neroli for St. Patrick's Day. Get a great chance to meet some of the other business owners and some of the residents from town. So to me, that's what it's all about. Kind of have a good time, but also provide opportunities for people to shake hands in casual scenarios,
I can't wait.
Right? So that's great. That's Leah Kofos from ssbllc.com. Thank you so much for listening to this edition of the Westwood Living Podcast. As always, if there's somebody else you'd like me to have a conversation with, just reach out, Leyden at bestversionmedia.com. Get me that person's name. I will track them down, have a conversation, and share it with you right here on the podcast network. But for now, for Leah, I'm Tom. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you later.